1. In light of the recent congressional testimony confirming UAPs and their biological pilots, I wanted to share this lobby encounter from the early 2000s. Working at the resort brand of a hotel chain right on the beach of a snooty, wealthy East Coast town, spacious lobby with tropical settings. We didn't mind so much if folks wandered in from the beach to use the restrooms or visit the cafe, as long as they weren't all sandy, were wearing cover-ups, and didn't use hotel parking for beach access. We had all kinds of folks coming and going as usual. After a few hours, I noticed an older but well-groomed woman sitting on a couch, people-watching. She was wearing a swingy, caftan-like dress and wore necklaces with large crystals hanging on them. I figured she was waiting for a guest to come down to take out to dinner, no big deal. Then big chunks of time started passing and she sat right there. I pointed her out to my co-worker, who was as puzzled as I was. I grabbed the turkey feather duster and started dusting the lobby to get a better look. She just sat, smiling. I asked if she needed anything. No, just waiting. The sun started to go down, still sitting. The security guard came and asked us about her. We said we have no idea. So he went and asked her what her business was. I didn't hear the conversation, but after the guard walked away, we heard her talking to herself and adjusting her necklace. A little more time passed, and she fiddled with her necklaces and spoke out loud to no one. The guard returned after his dinner break. It was now dark outside, and she still sat. He told the woman that if she was not a guest or a guest of a guest, she would have to leave. She started to get agitated and grasped her crystals and said, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" to no one. Okay, so she's a loony. At least we know what we're dealing with now. She protested that she wasn't hurting anything. Her party was on the way and running late. The guard smelled the crazy and said he would give her 30 minutes and then he would call the police. Well, that lit a fire under her, so she stood up and started pacing, clicking her fingernails against the large crystals like some kind of Morse code. "You need to get here. Are you coming?" After the deadline passed, a police cruiser pulled up under the portico. The guard saw it and approached the officer to explain what was going on. The lady saw the cop and then held one crystal to her ear, another to her mouth, and said, "They're here. Where are you? What do I do? Get here now." The cop told her she couldn't wait there anymore, but if she needed help finding her party, she could go with him. She declined and walked out into the parking lot, turned in several different directions, before finally walking off. None of us knew what to say. Someone hummed the theme to Twilight Zone. Cop stayed for a coffee just to make sure she didn't come back. I don't know if it was a heat stroke or a meds issue, but she had the most beatific Zen-like smile on her face, like she was bound for some kind of glory, just like the folk in Heaven's Gate, probably. 2. To set the scene. It happened around 1:30 a.m. when we were fully booked. Back in March this year. Lady 1 and 2 walk in. "Hey there, how can I help?" "We'd like to check in. It's under Smith." "No problem. Let me have a look for you." I go through arrivals and checked-in lists. "I'm not finding your reservation. Have you got a confirmation number?"
"Let me find it for you,"
says Lady 2. She goes through her phone for 2 minutes.
"Bunch of numbers here."
"I'm still not finding it. Have you got the confirmation email?" Lady 2 goes through her emails and shows me. "It says you booked at a different site here."
No, this is the site where I worked. I booked this site."
I show the email for the location they actually booked. The site they booked and my home site were next to each other, so they clicked the wrong button by mistake, I'm guessing.
"Well, you need to cancel it and book us in here."
"Unfortunately, I can't do that. I don't have access to that site's system, and we're fully booked tonight. The best I can do is give you the number for where you booked and give you a couple of hotels locally you can try."
What do you mean you can't do that? You work for the same company.
I can't access their bookings. I can't see their information.
Well, we need a room. This is your fault.
This repeats for about 10 minutes, between both not guests. I shouldn't have entertained it as long as I did, as I got a bit short, and I'm told I can be brusque at the best of times. Look, I can't do anything for you. I didn't book it, so that was down to whichever person booked it to check when booking. I have to ask you to leave, otherwise I'll have to call the police and have you escorted off the premises. 3. So this one happened a few years back, about 2015, when I was working as a night auditor at this old 150-room hotel downtown in my city. It is not shabby or anything, just a little dated, and most things about this place share that feature. To call it old style would be the biggest understatement. This information sets up the story in a way that we used no electronics. We had no cameras, no computers, no email. We only had printers and faxes. As such, we also had a rather outdated arrangement with any escorts that were invited to the hotel by guests. We never suggested or acknowledged any such possibilities, and the official directive was to pretend that this does not and never did occur here. In my country it is, and was even then, quite legal, but they were worried about the reputation of the place. The girls walked by and went straight to the room, maybe only asking for the floor. No recording of any sort of the visit, person or room. So, this took place on a rather low mobility Thursday morning at 4 a.m. A girl had arrived at about 3:30. Half an hour after, I heard angry yelling from upstairs. Being an old building, the walls were paper thin, so after going upstairs and verifying the origin of the arguing and yelling being room 103, I went back and gave them a call with a warning concerning the noise. The guy who picked up said, "Okay," and hung up on me. Not being used to the role, I was reluctant to dig into it further and just hoped the issue resolved itself. It had not. Shortly after the call, a repeater from room 105, guest 1, comes down and asks me if I saw a girl pass by the front desk about 30 minutes ago. I obliged to feign ignorance, asked instead if he was waiting for someone. He said that according to the text on his phone, a girl had come and was heading up to see him 30 minutes ago. I suggest he give the number a call to maybe clarify any confusion, and hoping to get him out of my hair. Just as he dialed the number, we hear voices coming down the stairs and a ringing phone. The guest from room 103, guest 2, as well as the girl come down, and he approaches the front desk to complain about the fact that the girl is demanding payment from him, but he did not call her. So this is roughly how the conversation went. It's a cleaned-up version, as I don't remember specific phrasing from all sides, and my imagination can never do it justice.
Please resolve the issue. The girl is asking me for money.
At this time, guest 1 and the girl are figuring out what happened, and that she walked into the wrong room. At this point, I abandon all pretense. I'm confused as to the nature of the issue. Is the amount not the one you agreed on?
We did not agree on any amount. We never spoke. I do not know who she is.
Then why did you let her in when she came to your room if you were not expecting anyone? My confusion escalates.
I thought my friends had done it as a surprise for me, maybe.
Indignation escalates. Guest 1 cut in. I made the call and she heard the wrong number. Anger escalates.
You said 103, come to 103 at 3:30.
At this point, a lot of yelling and colorful name-calling occurred, and it took me a solid quarter of an hour to quiet things down. No matter why it occurred or who was mistaken, this was clearly a misunderstanding. What is the problem at the moment, misunderstanding aside? I'm going upstairs. I have a flight in a few hours, and this is taking long enough. Guest 2 says to guest 1,
And who's going to pay her? I didn't call her.
How about the one who slept with her? Call or no call? I'm not leaving until I get my money. I don't care who from. Looking at guest 1, 2, and me. Another 20 minutes of yells, insults, and threats. Then I say to everyone, I'm very sorry, but soon other guests will need my attention, and I cannot assist you further in this issue. You will have to resolve it between yourselves. Please do so quietly, so as not to disturb the other guests and in a civilized manner." 5 minutes after that, I called the police because guest 2 punched guest 1, and they shoved the girl into a worthless painting that was nevertheless utterly destroyed by her falling on it. As soon as the police were called, the girl left, and guests 1 and 2 stayed there, waiting for the police to resolve the issue. Turns out the police were not entertained and took both of them to the station. That was the end of it for me. They came a few hours after and checked out in a hurry, apparently with guest 2 promising the morning shift that we provided horrible customer service, and he would be sure to write up a horrible review. My colleague, who I filled in on everything before leaving, explained that we do not work with any platforms online, but he's welcome to leave his suggestions at the guest book at the front desk. His reply was what you'd expect. He wrote, "F you," and signed his full name under it. He actually ended up paying for the broken painting at least, after my boss called him about it, as he threw the first punch, which led to the shoving. 4. I've been thinking about when the Amish came to stay at my hotel, so I thought I'd share. I worked downtown right off Bourbon Street. As I walked towards my hotel, I saw a van load of people who looked like they were Amish. Sure enough, they had just checked into my hotel. From Lancaster they came. The next day, I worked the AM shift. First off checkout was 11, and they didn't leave until almost 12. But whatever. An angry lady with a thick accent ran to the desk. I had trouble understanding her, but was able to help. What happened was whoever ordered their Uber had put the pickup location the same as the drop-off location, and the Amish people couldn't understand her. At first I thought it was accent because both parties had heavy accents, but no. The Amish could not understand what Uber was. When I asked who booked their Uber, they would say something along the lines of, "We don't have Uber." Granted, their party was so big, they had 2, which the first one had already left, and this one was the correct name. They couldn't say who booked it. They were all getting mad, so I decided to cut it short and start acting. As the lady grew more mad, I pulled them in so she could go, and told them I'll get them a cab. They were going to the train station, but were upset because they were going to miss their train, and the next ones were not until tomorrow. "Okay, what time is your train leaving?"
12:05.
"Sir, it's 12 now. Do you want to go back to your room for another night?"
"No, we need to get to the train station."
"Okay, cool. Cab's on their way, but it'll be a few minutes to get one big enough." They were worried about the other group, and how they wouldn't move unless they were there as the leader, who was left behind. So, I told them to stay here, and I'll call the train station to see what I can do. "Hi, this is so-and-so from so-and-so. I have a group that was split up. Could you keep an eye on them and pass on a message?" I can try, but how am I supposed to know who?" "The name is X, and the group is Amish." "Oh, yeah, they're right here." Got it a few minutes later, and the guy from the train station calls back to ask me to tell them that they were waiting for them. They have bus tickets at a certain time. By the time I get off the phone to tell them they're loading up in a cab, later on that night, the guy from the train station called and said they all made the train. Never found out what brought them to the French Quarter. I was told maintenance had to explain to them what a toilet is used for. The housekeeper said the toilet paper was still folded. After this happened, I went down the rabbit hole of learning about Amish culture. There is New Order Amish, which uses plumbing along with other worldly things that we use, and there is still Old Order Amish who do not. I don't know if these people were Old or New Order, or if the maintenance guy was true or joking, but there are different rules for every Amish community. 5. I am a GSM at a relatively small hotel, 126 rooms. And while I'm no stranger to answering my staff's calls of distress outside of my working hours, my night audit team always postpones escalations until I arrive at around 7 a.m. I worked the front desk for 3 years and night audit for 2, so I understand the struggles of not having a supportive manager. The staff know that I will put everything aside to help when they need me, so they try not to call unless they have no other choice. 3 nights ago at 3:30 a.m., my phone starts ringing. I answer in a panic when I notice it's the hotel, and I'm met with the shaky voice of my usually very calm and collected night auditor, who's been in his position for 5 years. He goes on to apologize for waking me, as he knows I was there for 12 hours the day before covering a sick call. But there was a man screaming at the front desk and refusing to leave or stop berating them until he spoke with the manager. Long story short, the man was livid because he didn't believe that he should have to show photo ID to check in or put a credit card down for incidentals when he already prepaid through a third party. The auditors did their best to explain the importance of safety and security and how it's hotel policy so no exceptions can be made. The man told the auditors that it was none of their business who he was, he already paid, and if they didn't get a manager on the phone right now, he would refuse to leave the desk. The man then proceeded to scream and yell at them, personally attack them, and to top it all off, he started to throw out slurs under his breath. While my auditor was explaining this to me in the back office, I could hear the yelling from the lobby through the phone. So I prompted my auditor to call security back from their rounds to stand with them at the desk, and pass the phone to the guest so I could talk to him myself. I've never lost my cool at a guest before. I can usually be firm and calm, even when dealing with the worst of the worst. But when this man took the phone and calmly said, "Hello?" I was already done, half asleep. My eyes still closed, I say, "You've harassed my staff, so I already don't care what you want or what your problem is." To say this man was shocked by my greeting would be an understatement. All he could say for the next 2 minutes of me talking to him was,
"You can't talk to me like that."
I went on to explain to him that I can't talk to him however I damn well pleased, because he wasn't speaking to an on-duty manager, he was speaking to another human being who was not on the clock. I then told him that if he didn't understand basic respect, then I didn't want him anywhere near the hotel, and hoped his car was comfortable, since that is where he'd be sleeping tonight. Again,
"You can't talk to me like that."
And so I told him that his reservation was already cancelled, and if he didn't leave the hotel in the next 2 minutes, he would be escorted out by police. He hung up on me after that, so I called my auditors back on one of their personal phones, and listened to the man scream his way out of the hotel, knocking things over on the way. Brochure rack, signs, sanitizer stations, chairs, everything knocked over in this man's grand exit. I waited until a few minutes had passed and told them to call me if he returned. The next day, I went to call the third party to officially cancel the reservation. I noticed the man had already left a scathing 1-star review, something along the lines of how incredibly rude the night staff were and how appalling the behavior of the manager was. The best part is we couldn't even get the review taken down because of the third-party review guidelines. It is absolutely incredible to me how entitled people are, and how they think that screaming will earn them an exception to the rules. I don't know what it is about hotels that makes people think that the individual standing at the desk is non-sentient, but the level of delusional is unmatched. Now, you're probably thinking I should have called the police first. And you're right, I agree. I always let them know they're well within their rights to do so. A lot of my staff are timid in making that decision, not to mention the city we are in is notorious for very delayed response time, over an hour. I continue to try to empower them to use their judgment to make that call to the police, which is why I make myself available if they need just that extra push and permission from a manager to do it. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 121. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you'd like to get the videos a little bit earlier, you can support me through Patreon, which is linked in the description, and you can do that for as little or as much as you like a month. You'll also find the link to the Hellfreezer merchandise store there. Pretty dang proud of it if I do say myself. Say so myself? I say a lot of things. Maybe get yourself a hoodie or a mug or something. I'm especially proud of the hoodies. You can also make donations during streams and videos like this one if you wish to do so. And while this is not required, I do very much appreciate it. And it helps me do the things and the stuff, especially the stuff. Alrighty, let's see. Oh wait, no, we have a shout out to do, don't we, today? I believe we do. Yes, we do. The shout out goes to the author of the first story, and that is Reddit user Ophelia Morningwood. Oh my. Well, thank you very much, Ophelia, for allowing us to use your story. Let's see. She's from Shartsville. Alrighty, as I don't think there's any other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And this goes for all you pumpkin spice aficionados out there. When in the year do you break the seal? When do you crack open the first pumpkin spice latte or whatever it is you have of the year? This is inspired by someone very special to me. Alrighty, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.